Fred Arnold. I'm joined by my good friend John Lite. John Lite is an agent with State Farm Insurance,
Yes.
and you help people provide that protection, that risk management for their home, and amongst other things.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're also a fellow Alamany alumni
That's
from
right.
high school.
That's right. I guess
You don't look it?
Well, thank you. Neither do you.
Yes, it's
Since
been
we
a
went
few
to school
years.
together, graduated the same year.
Yeah.
No, great times.
Yes. Let's talk about homeowners insurance. I want to specifically talk about homeowners insurance. And depending on, of course, the home, how much insurance do you need? You know, they have these guaranteed replacement costs. They have so many different ways to calculate it. You want to have enough insurance, but not too much.
Correct. And I get that question all the time. And back in '08, we had those major wildfires and Big Bear a couple years ago. And what they found was they interviewed a lot of people and that they couldn't rebuild properly. And they found that a good amount of protection to have would be $200 a square foot. Now that's just to replace a basic home. Obviously, if you had a custom built home, upgraded floors, tile, cabinets, that sort of thing. So when I talk to my clients, I say, look, this is the basis I want to start you at, $200 a square foot. And I'll get, well, you know, that's too much, or
Seems
that's
like
too
it's too
little.
much, right?
It seems like it. And especially in this economy, well, I can build my house for less than that. I said, well, maybe, but let's go with the norm of what's just come out a couple years ago, and then we can go from there. So I will always start everyone at $200 a square foot, and then we can go from there. But there is a minimum that we can't go below, and we want to make sure we don't go below those numbers, and we have calculations on how we do that. Another misconception is, well, I paid this much for my home. It should be covered for that much. So I said, no, you're going to overinsure your home. But what you paid for your home also includes property.
And the land,
The
and
land.
the pool.
So, and that's not covered. We want to make sure you just rebuild your home. So that's a great question that I get a lot, and I want to make sure people, because sometimes they're so underinsured or overinsured. We want to make sure they just have enough protection.
Some people don't understand what it costs to get one contractor to come in and build one home versus
Right.
the developer who really, they might have paid $60 or $70 a
Right.
square foot, but they built a lot of homes, they put the basic stuff in,
Right.
but you upgraded. So that's another thing you have to look at. Granite,
Oh, yeah. I get that all. Matter of fact, so I had a developer that called me. He says, well, I can do that, like you said, for $100 a square foot. I said, but you're building, 200 homes at that cost. Get one contractor out there, it's going to double or even triple. So, and then you're right. I'll get, when I do reviews, I try to do reviews once a year. What's changed in your life? Did you do any upgrades? If we're talking about homeowners insurance, sure enough, I added a room. We upgraded the kitchen. And the kitchen, these days, if you want to sell your home, is you got to remodel your kitchen, right?
my wife wants a new kitchen, and they're expensive.
Yeah, they are.
Which is a huge upgrade. If
Yeah.
the house burns or partially
Yeah.
burns or is
Sure.
damaged or water damage,
You just every year you want to make sure you're looking at your insurance, and home's a big one because that can change.
let's talk about earthquake.
Yeah.
Do you need it? Let's talk about the dynamics around it, because you don't have to necessarily have it.
Right.
But when we have a shaker, you're going to want it.
Yeah, you don't have it's not necessarily like homeowners insurance would be, and everyone asks me, do I need earthquake? And I said, well, that's a tough question for me to answer. Look at your finances, and the quick thing is, well, I'll just walk away. And I said, really? Yeah, are you really going to walk away from your property? So it's through California Earthquake Authority. Of course, no insurance carrier writes it anymore after the Northridge earthquake, just too costly. So what happened is California had to come up with a plan to cover. So the deductibles are huge, 10 and 15%. Most people take 15%.
So you can do 10%
Yes.
still?
Yeah, you
Okay.
can do 10 and 15%. And
Didn't it go to 20? I mean, it used to be very big deductibles before.
not with California Earthquake
It's always
Authority.
been pretty
Right.
reasonable.
And they've actually lowered their rates because they've got so much extra money now that they're lowering their rates. But the percentages on deductibles are still there. So most people take 15%, and they don't understand how it pays out. So I have to walk them through the process. And the coverages aren't the same as they used to be, but if you cannot rebuild your home and you don't want to walk away, sometimes you're overinsured, but sometimes it's good.
Yeah.
So you have to look at your own personal situation.
And to have that little extra insurance sometimes is not very much more expensive.
Right.
I want to ask you, when you get a homeowner's policy, it includes a lot. Like, for example, slip and falls. If your child were to get in a little bit of a scuffle,
Yeah.
there's liability coverage.
Yeah.
What other coverages come with your typical homeowner's policy, and then what
Sure.
other things can you add?
Most homeowners insurance policies, when you look at the main cost, it includes your coverage on your building, your personal property. It includes what your deductible is, and I do want to hit that too because deductibles are very important. And then there's some, not all personal property is protected at the same rate. So, for instance, computers, guns, furs, specialty items, they have a limit, and that's also included on your property. If you want to add more, for instance, if you had $20,000 in jewelry, you might want to put that on a separate policy called a personal article policy. But it's an all-inclusive policy, and different companies have different ways of covering. I believe with State Farm, we have one of the better ones out there. We have a great loss of use, which means if you had to be out of your home for any necessary period of time due to a loss, we have a great 2 years, as much as you need to take care
Because you're
of
going to be
yourself.
paying rent somewhere else.
Exactly. So your mortgage has to be paid for. Any circumstances that you wouldn't normally have that you need to pay for are now paid for by State Farm or any company that has that. So a lot of coverages are in there. And then again, if you need to protect other items that are a lot more expensive, we need to look at putting that on a separate policy.
Well, let's talk about an umbrella.
Sure.
Something that I've always believed in. You have your auto policy, you've got your homeowners, and each of them cover to a certain limit, but you want to have a little bit extra just in case.
Absolutely.
When do you see umbrellas most often, and how do they work?
Well, an umbrella, for those that don't know, is a personal liability umbrella. So it's an addition of liability on top of your home and auto insurance. I see this more protection for auto, not so much for homeowners. It's very hard to prove liability on a homeowner's policy. But with auto, you get into a serious accident and you have maybe $50,000 in liability and you've injured someone that needs costly medical or, God forbid, killed somebody. Your wages can be taken for the rest of your life. You have to sell your home. I mean, it's just a tremendous cost. So what a liability umbrella is, basic $1 million, it starts at $1 million for a basic two-car, two-person home, very cheap. And that gets that extra protection of $1 million. And what happens is if you go to a lawsuit, which hopefully you'll never have to do, first thing a lawyer will do is look at that and say, look, they've got this umbrella. At least they have that. Let's go after that instead of going after your life's wages and other assets that you need, you know, that you don't want to lose.
And it's all about protecting you. And we have 5 cars.
Yes.
With a lot of drivers, teenagers.
And perfect. You want to get the umbrella before your teenagers start driving.
Okay.
Because
we did.
Yes.
Luckily.
Right. And for 2 reasons. One is you want to make sure you're protected. You know, young drivers, we've been there, right? I think I had 3 accidents my first year. 2 of them were not my fault though, but still.
I think
you want that protection.
2 of the 2 were my fault.
Because if you don't get that protection and your young ones get into an accident, you may not be able to get it anymore, or it'd be so expensive to get one.
Right.
So it's very important to put one in place, and it's very cheap. So we definitely need to look into that.
Yeah. Well, those that want to reach out to you, very good information. John Lite, how can they reach you?
They can reach me at johnlite.net, very easy, or 661-713-0192 is my number. Very, very easy.
Perfect. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Appreciate
I appreciate it. Thank you so
Good
much.
stuff. Great information. Good
Thank
luck with your kids growing up.
Thank you.
Yes.
You too.
Yes.
Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, John Lite, a State Farm Insurance Agency. We're going to jump to a quick break, and we'll be right back.